Thank you for joining us. This is live with Miami's Community News, and our guest today from the Department of Solid Waste, Miami-Dade County. We're going to be talking about mosquitoes today. And our first guest to my right is Dr. Isik.
Yep.
Right? And you are the operations manager of the Mosquito Division. And Michael Mood over there, who is the communications director. Right? Did I get that right?
You gave me a raise. You gave me
I did, actually.
Yeah, actually.
Dr. Petrie's over there going, I'm not quite sure if we can do this today. All right. But we want you to consider that.
Yeah, I'm the public information officer.
Yeah, see, we knew it was.
Thank you.
Right. And so today we're going to be talking about mosquitoes. And these folks are not bottles of water over here. Wait, what do we have in these guys right here?
We call them emergence jars. And we do collect mosquitoes from the field and, watch them there. They have no privacy. We watch them, what they're doing to find answer to our questions.
So I know one of the things we're going to be talking about today is how insects, in particular mosquitoes, become resistant to the deterrents and I don't know if I want to use the word poison. What's the right
Pesticides?
word? Pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how they become resistant, and then you all sort of figure out what to do with them. So first of all, why don't you tell us about your recent history, how you decided to spend your time with these little tiny critters that live. How long do these live? A couple of weeks, doctor? A couple of weeks? That's it.
3 weeks.
Right?
Yeah.
And they stay in the neighborhood, in your backyard, right?
Correct. They don't want to go too far because why would you? If I were a mosquito, I have the, little containers with the water to lay my eggs. And then there are dogs and cats and people to get, my blood meal and lay my eggs back to those little containers. I wouldn't travel too far either.
Right. So I was talking to Dr. Petrie last year, and I said, what is their purpose, all right, in life? And he looked at me. It's like it was almost asking, well, what is your purpose, all right? So first we'll start. What's the purpose of the mosquito? Mike, would you like to talk about that?
Sure, I'd love to. But actually, Dr. Unlu has a very interesting academic background. It's one of the things that makes her qualified to do what she does, and one of the things that really drew her to us as a county. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
I came to United States to do my PhD on mosquitoes to Louisiana State University, and I worked on West Nile virus for 4 years, 3 months. When you're a PhD student, you count the days. And then I took a position as an entomologist in Mercer County Mosquito Control, New Jersey. And then I was with Broward County, and then I came to Miami-Dade.
So inquiring minds want to know, out of all the places that you could get an advanced degree, how did you choose to study mosquitoes? What was your mindset with that?
My mindset, I believe mentoring, right? Mentors are really important. And if you're lucky enough, you get a really great one to lead you to great things. So my professor back in Turkey, he knew this professor, Dr. Michael Perch, which is a great, name in our field. And, they encouraged me to pursue a PhD degree in United States with him. He was looking for students. So my professor thought I would be a great candidate. So I came here and, I got a chance to work with a phenomenal advisor for a month and a half because he had a traffic accident and we lost him. But, I'm still in contact with his daughter and wife. And, we lived his legacy. Louisiana State University supported us. And then I started working with Lane Foyle, which is another great advisor, taught me a lot, very patient.
So there was a mentor in your life to say, hey, look, take a look at this.
Correct.
So as we contemplate our lives and what we do, and one of our purposes is maybe there's some young person that's looking to get some direction. So my question to you is, have you been providing leadership and direction for some young person that's wondering what they should do?
Oh, definitely. What comes around needs to go around.
Okay, that's true.
So
that's
I love
great.
mentoring because, when you look at the students or presentations, if there's anything wrong going on and you're like, I'd never judge the student. It's his or her mentor. You need to prepare the person right, check on her or him until you think that they can, spread their wings and fly by themselves. I still
Like
call,
these guys.
yes. Yeah.
Thank you very
Excellent
much
point.
for doing that.
Excellent point.
And there are a lot of people that are out there that perhaps you don't even know that they're looking at you for guidance. So my hat's off to you
Mhm.
on doing that. So mosquito season is going to start up pretty soon. When is that, Michael?
Yeah, well, really, we like to say mosquito season is all year round here in Miami-Dade County. But to your point, the peak season is definitely right around the corner. Usually, that coincides with the increase in rains. So we're ready. We're pretty much always watching. We're always counting. We're always surveilling the mosquito population. So we've got a good idea of what's going on at any given point in any given area. But yeah, it's coming.
So people, before we get on to the pesticides and how they become resistant, you have traps throughout the Miami-Dade County, and
Yes.
you have people that go out and they catch them, and the traps, you bring them into a laboratory and you count them.
That's exactly right. We have about 320 traps at the moment set throughout Miami-Dade County, and really what we're doing is we're following the mosquitoes where the mosquitoes tend to gravitate to where the people are at. So they're largely in urban areas, and we're retrieving these sample bags once a week. So it's a constant state of our team going out into the field and coming back with these catch bags, and it's us analyzing and counting and documenting at pretty much around the clock.
So when you get them in these catch bags, you bring them back to the laboratory doctor. How do you actually count them?
We smash them. No.
How do you count them, Doc?
Well, first of all, it's not just counting. Counting would be the easiest way to, process them. When you
point.
first put under the microscope, they all look the same to me. But as you get, advanced with your skills, then every single one
You
of them
sort
is
them.
different. You
Right.
sort them first.
Are they alive or dead at that point?
When you collect them in the field team puts them in a cooler with dry ice. So you knock them over immediately, because some of those mosquitoes also sent for disease surveillance, meaning they go to a laboratory, get tested for viruses that were concerned, like West Nile or Zika or chikungunya. So they need to be in cold chain, what we call it cold chain. So they're on dry ice. And then they come into the lab. We put them in -20 freezers, and then the technicians ID them on chill tables, which is again ice cold table under the microscope. And then they put them in the tubes and then racks and put them back into -20.
So in one catch bag, there could be different species in those.
Oh, many different
Many
species.
species.
Yep, up to over 50 species in Miami.
And when you guys look at them, they're different.
Oh, they're different.
So
Yes.
do you think the average person is concerned about catching a disease from mosquito, or they just don't want the pain associated with getting bit?
That's a good question. I think largely people have been distracted by another type of virus that's been going around the last couple of years. You may have heard of it.
Yeah, once in a while.
But to me, as an observer and really someone who is new to the field, I wasn't very, very cognizant or very aware of mosquito-borne illnesses before I got here to the county. So I would tend to say that the average person is not really worried about it. I mean, obviously we had a big outbreak with Zika about 6-7 years ago now. So I think that's probably faded from memory somewhat. So to answer your question, long story short, no, I don't believe the average person's really concerned.
Are different mosquitoes resistant to different pesticides?
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
And they tell me I'm complicated. It's not me. It's the mosquitoes
So
are
let's talk about
complicated.
Zika, which was on Miami Beach and Wynwood, and the reports that come back, they say it's this part of Wynwood or that part of Miami Beach. And so as an uneducated consumer, I go, oh, so they just stay there. They're not blown away by the wind. But from what I'm gathering is, for the most part, they stay in the mosquitoes stay in a certain area for their entire existence.
To be more precise, certain species likes to stay where they're at, but certain species likes to travel. But the ones that were concerned about carrying disease are the ones that they like to stay in one place.
So somebody that lives in Homestead near the levee, and the mosquitoes they get are different than somebody that lives in North Miami Beach.
Yeah. I mean, you can have different mosquitoes if you live in Cutler Bay or if you're living in Miami Beach, right? They're,
Yes.
you don't even need to get out of the county, and it could be different.
So how do you test the mosquitoes that you collect to see how they're responding to the pesticides?
Okay, so the first thing that we do is that we determine some areas that we think that we have more adulticiding taking place throughout the year, meaning like there are lots of colds, there are lots of mosquitoes in those traps. So in response, you do adulticiding, which is known mostly spraying.
Or truck spray.
Yeah, truck spraying by, public, but I like to call it adulticiding, just spraying, because we do both larviciding and adulticiding, targeting different phases of the mosquito. So they're different.
So when you go back to those areas with the catch bags, you're going to see the result of the pesticides to see if it's working.
No, that's total different. So in order to find out if they're resistant, we put buckets out there and simulate their habitats to lay eggs. And when they lay eggs, we go back, bring the eggs to the office, and we ship them to the University of Florida labs, and they test it for us. And basically what they're doing is they rear them, they become adults, and then they take the female mosquitoes, put them in little bottles, and they're all CDC protocols written out that they follow. And then they check them on certain time periods, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 12, 24 hours, and they keep recording how many dies. The more they die, the better off you are. But if they don't die and they're all live in the bottles, that shows the resistance, because literally you're putting them in a little bottle with the chemical in its optimum concentration, and they are still flying. And if you can imagine that you're doing spraying and they're out in the field, they're not, getting even that much, then that becomes a big concern.
So how long does it take for a pesticide to no longer be as effective it was when you first introduced it, more or less?
While you're doing the experiments, or in the
Well, when you're spraying in the neighborhood.
Oh, you'll never know. You need to constantly monitor them.
So it changes all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean the reason that resistance is global. It's not just we have it in Miami. Everybody has this problem, and but it's more important here because, like Michael said, we have mosquito problem all year around. So we still do adulticiding even when it's January.
So some people think that, without regard to what they do on their own property, that doesn't matter, that you're going to come in from the neighbors. What's your thought about that? Meaning they go and they empty the buckets of water that are there, and they make sure that as best they can, the mosquitoes don't have a place to live.
In other words, if the neighbor doesn't
but if your neighbor doesn't do it, you'll still be in trouble. It takes a community to deal with the problem.
And it might be us that's the rest of that community that's sort of that could make that connection.
And usually, I know they get upset, our residents, and everywhere, not in just Miami. They call it's my neighbor. I even 1 year, one of our inspectors was given an presentation. I said, why don't you use the title "It's not me but my neighbor"? Because it's always they call it's my neighbor, but you go to the neighbor, but you go to the neighbor's backyard, they're like, I don't know why they just keep calling on me. And they may or they may not, but it's the individual who calls you and complains about the neighbor has creating the problem.
So you're out with these 324 traps throughout the county. Do you typically know when there's going to be an outbreak, if that's the word, prior to you getting phone calls?
Oh yeah, Dr. Petrie calls them. Oh, Isik, can you feel it's the Egypti weather? So it's when it rains and then it stops and then rains again, and a little break, and then the water is accumulating in the containers, but there's not much enough time for them to dry out because there's another rain event following. usually that's when you expect numbers going up.
So we've known for 50 years, you know, if you spend too much time in the sun, you're going to have a problem. And so with mosquitoes, we know that during the season, the heavy part of the season, when it's raining and stop raining and it gets hot. So what should a homeowner do immediately when it starts raining? Right, and God only knows our yards need a little bit of rain right now, so that they're not going to have. So they can control it, whatever they're able to do. What's some basic things they could do?
I think what we should do is first you got to let it stop raining, and then once the rain has subsided, it's important to check your yard to see if there's any standing water. And this is even good to do even when it hasn't rained, because irrigation water can also present the problem. So what you're looking for are flower pots. You're looking for the little saucers underneath the pots that sometimes overflow. You're looking for maybe tarps that you have in a yard covering something, covering a boat, covering some lighting. You know, you want to be vigilant about your rain gutters. Also, you want to make sure they're clear and not kind of pooling the water, because that can also become a problem, and eliminate the water.
Right. And speaking of eliminating things, if when the county recognizes, or the state recognizes, say, so these mosquitoes are getting resistant to this pesticide, how does that translate into what the big box stores provide for us when we go to go and get some spray that we want? It's not quite pesticides, but what is it we call that when we put it on ourselves?
Right. The repellent is one type of thing that really doesn't kill the mosquito. What it does, it sort of makes your skin invisible. It masks the scent that you're releasing that attracts the mosquito in the first place. So that I haven't really heard of any kind of resistance to repellents before. No. But it's the resistance to the pesticide, to the actual substance that kills them. So that's what's a concern.
Do people spray the residential? Do people ever go out spray their bushes with pesticides?
I mean, there's a lot of private companies are around that do.
And, but historically, a homeowner is not going to spray their bushes.
Well, you can find you can find pesticides at your local hardware store, and that's part of the issue, is that if you don't rotate the pesticide, if you use the same type of pesticide, odds are that the resistance is going to develop. And that's one of the questions in my mind, at least, about these private mosquito control companies, because we don't know what they use. So consequently, we're not really sure if they're rotating them.
So if then those mosquitoes on that property, whatever it is, they over a period of time they can become resistant to it.
Yes,
that's fact. That's not like stipulation. It's going to happen.
We see it happen all the time, you know, and it's happened as Dr. Unlu said, in other parts of the world. It's not just an issue that's affecting us here, but it is a problem. And we know we actually gave a tour to a physician from Santo Domingo, and the gentleman was telling us that, you know, they do employ mosquito spraying. They do fly a plane, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. And I can't verify it, but we suspect it's because they're not really conscious of resistance, and maybe they're not doing anything to avoid that.
So we've heard of bacillus resistant disease. Right? Okay. We've heard of there's this thing, flu.
Right.
That vaccine gets changed all the time for that, but because mosquitoes haven't entered in the consciousness, we don't think about that too much, except for people like yourselves that are bringing it up. Folks, if you're using the same thing week after week, month after month, year after year, nature's an amazing thing. It's gonna surprise us all. We know we have an image. Can we put this image up? And why don't you tell us what it is, Doctor?
Okay, so this is just what I mentioned, that, you know, we have those blue buckets in the field. We label them as clear as possible so the residents wouldn't disturb it. So we usually, supervisors and inspectors deploy these to the areas that we determine on Mondays, and they pick it up on Wednesday and Thursdays and bring it to the office to the technicians, and they pick up those egg rafts. The species that we're interested in lay their eggs in rafts. So, and then we put them in small petri dishes, and then we ship them to University of Florida to get tested. And we keep repeating this because we have a panel of chemicals, until we have enough to test all the chemicals for that population. And then when it's over, we move to another site, and we keep doing it over and over again, because like we have been saying, it's an ever-changing thing. So you need to keep looking at it constantly. mosquitoes don't sleep, don't take break. Science doesn't take a break. You need to constantly
Yes.
look into those things.
So
They
this
don't.
blue-
They don't fly south for the winter.
Okay, and this blue bucket, tell me what that's used for. This blue bucket.
Well, just the tap water, and then we put some grass cutlings because the species that we're interested in, they like some organic matter in the water that attracts them to lay their eggs. Nothing really complicated, really, really simple. And then sometimes you don't get anything or one raft. It happens. Sometimes, supervisors come back with 20, great day.
Right.
That's why we keep, we have to keep doing it, over and over to hit our goals.
I think we're done with the picture. Let's talk about people that have outdoor ponds and they have fish in there. What's somebody supposed to do, Michael?
Well, for an outdoor pond,
Yep.
you can buy they sell a larviciding product that actually is sort of it sort of dissolves over time. You can buy it in brick format, or you can buy it in a little donut shape. What you do is you put it in the water every few weeks, every 3-4 weeks, and what it is it's a slow release bacteria that the mosquito larvae they eat, and that it kills only mosquito and black fly larvae. It's called BTI, and I think we might have discussed it before. How that
Doesn't harm the fish.
No, it doesn't harm the fish. Doesn't harm wild animals. Doesn't harm people, pets, birds. It's completely safe to use in that water.
I was over at a fish farm. They must have about 30 tanks out there. As I was walking through it, I'm going, I don't feel the mosquitoes. So
Yeah.
now I know.
And the other thing is that sometimes what you can do is introduce a species of fish that actually eats a mosquito, and that then the problem sort of takes care of itself. And that's actually what we do when we find an abandoned pool. Is we don't try to drain the water. We don't try to add more chemicals to it. What we do is we introduce these mosquito eating fish. The species is natural. It's native to Florida. They're called gambusia. So we dump the fish in there, and the fish just natural selection runs its course.
That's good. Let's talk about when you do this testing, if you say, okay, in a certain area, we know there are a lot of mosquitoes based upon we put this trap out for how long do traps usually go out?
24 hours.
So you go, man, there's twice as many here that have been here in the last month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something that triggers when you see this huge increase? You start spraying, or what is it you do at that point?
Okay, so it is standard protocol that when we look at the numbers and the traps, if it's higher than what is expected, then we do adulticiding, because nothing else works that fast and effective to kill those adult mosquitoes.
Versus the larva.
Yes, but then we don't stop there. Then we know what type of mosquito and what type of habitat they're coming from. Then we do inspections. We send a team of inspectors to check those potential habitats and areas that are breeding the mosquitoes. So they treat them with the larva. And then if we think that, there are access issues or, would be beneficial to run a truck with larviciding, we also, on top of everything, we do the larviciding using a truck mounted sprayer. So we don't just go do adulticiding and then hope that, magic happens. Because if you think about it, when they're in the water, they're in a confined area. It's really easier to, do something about it when they're in a confined area. When they're flying, they're all over the place. So you do your due diligence and try to reduce those adult numbers to bring down the disease risk down or the nuisance down. But then you do larviciding so you can, stop
Right.
the
Preventive.
adults are coming.
So how high do mosquitoes typically fly, the maximum height?
Oh, again, it depends on what
I mean,
type
10
of
feet, 20 feet?
what type of mosquito you're talking about. The salt marsh mosquito, Dr. Petrie has his expertise on. It does fly high up, but Aedes aegypti.
That's your favorite pet.
Yeah, they actually Aedes albopictus and Aedes aegypti, we call them ankle biters. They don't go too high. You can see them around your elbows, but they like to stay around the ground.
When we see the truck out, the area you go, it's scientifically based. It's not just because somebody called. You're going to look for all the supporting documents.
Right. It's not willy-nilly.
Not in
No.
Miami-Dade County, not during our Dr. PG's in my watch. Everything is science-based.
Yes.
We
Yes.
look at the data. It's not like, you know what, my gut is telling me let's adulticide,
No.
the whole Miami Beach. Like we don't wake
And
up and
there's
say,
multiple data points too.
Yeah,
Obviously, we talked about the traps at length, but there's also, we rely on our call center. If you're having a problem with mosquitoes, if you're getting bitten a lot in your backyard, you can call 311 and report the issue, and then that data gets transmitted to us. So we know there's a problem because people are telling us that there's a problem.
What's important for people to recognize is one person can make a difference.
Right.
Because maybe that was the final threshold. Okay, we
Right.
got 10 calls from over here. That's the number. All right, let's go.
We can
address
see
that.
a cluster of complaints. That becomes very obvious to us.
Yeah.
Based on the data. And something else I think we should note is that we have a very strong partnership with the Florida Department of Health. So whenever there is a confirmed disease report, whenever someone gets sick and goes to the hospital and they identify what it is that's wrong with it, or I should say when they first suspect that there's something wrong with them, we get that disease report.
Mhm.
And then there's a series of
And
actions that we take
protocols
immediately
again. Yeah.
and that we've been more aggressive with. And I think that's probably why we haven't seen another outbreak here in Miami-Dade County, is because we've been, we've taken advantage of this relationship, and we're working very closely with the state.
Sometimes in life you go, wonder how that stuff happens, all right, or doesn't happen. So this is a perfect example. When the mosquitoes are under control, you go, gee, there haven't been mosquitoes. Yeah, they forgot about how many people in the department.
In operations, we have 25 inspectors,
Okay.
3 supervisors, 1 senior supervisor, and 3 mechanics.
Right. So we have a
that's
lot of
30
people that are out there
something.
trying
Yeah.
to control
Right.
this, all right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes no complaints is a good thing,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
In the sense that, gee, it hasn't reached a threshold where people have a problem with it. Would you tell everybody again what we're doing with these guys here?
Well, Isik, would you like to describe?
Well, just like I said, this is like viewing what they're doing, and this is not that related with the resistance testing per se, but that's another very important thing that we're doing, especially during the downtime. We call it downtime, like
The off season.
off season. We're constantly looking at which products are
And
working
there are
for
mosquitoes
us.
in these, in all 3 of these.
Correct.
Well, that one, no.
Oh.
In these 2, there are.
So we constantly testing the products, because we don't just turn our backs and assume that it's working. So when we have a new product that we want to use, we do assign inspectors to certain areas, and they keep going back and checking. So in this case, we have a larvicide in a pouch form. So we put in the storm drains, because around this time, there's not much rain. There's not much movement in those storm drains. So the water is sitting there. That creates another mosquito problem. And then in order to prevent that, we have teams of people who are treating those storm drains. So this is a new product that we're looking at. And what we're doing is, after we treat the storm drain, they're bringing larvae and pupae back in the office. And then we look if they emerge as an adult or not. If they do in 72 hours, bad news. That means it's not working as effective as that were expected. But if they don't, in this jar, I don't know if you can see it. We have adults in here and no adults here, meaning this product is doing whatever it's supposed to do. So then I know what is working best for controlling the mosquitoes in the storm drains.
Right. And I happen to see an address on there. Is that where you got those mosquitoes from?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. But
You're
let me
welcome.
ask you, I think the coldest days of our winter are over. All right. January 11th to the 25th. All right. For better or for worse. But this is still sort of our winter here.
Mm-hmm.
So what should folks do during this time of the year to either control or prevent from getting bit, and try to control it at their homes?
Yeah, sure, Mike. Well, you know that we always like to say drain and cover in order to fight the bite. And what we mean precisely
Drain and cover
is
and fight the bite.
drain and cover, fight the bite. So what we mean is essentially look at like what we were talking about before. Be vigilant about the sources of the mosquito breeding. That is the standing water in your yard. If you find that you're pooling water somewhere, drain it. Get rid of it. We're also talking about getting rid of unused objects. Like some people, for some reason, like to keep tires in their backyard, like tires that they take off their car, and I guess they don't want to pay the disposal fee. Well, guess what? That will pool water, and because it's dark and because it's black, it's going to retain heat. It's going to make a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. So get rid of those things. And how do you get rid of them? Well, there are trash and recycling centers throughout Miami-Dade County. If you go to miamidade.gov/solid waste, you can find a trash and recycling center near you. And we also have a new appointment system where you can call 311, or you can go to the solid waste website. You can book an appointment. Then once you know when our bulky waste crew is going to show up, you put your trash out on your swale, and that's it. It's done. We come by, we pick it up, and it's gone. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm encouraging you to get rid of old appliances, things you're not using, things that may pool water. Put them out. Get rid of them. And so that's one way. The other part of the coin, the other side of the coin, I should say, is cover. And that is, yes, the temperatures they're creeping back up into the 70s, so it may not be ideal, but you should wear long sleeve shirts. You should wear pants, socks, shoes. Those sorts of things, they minimize the amount of skin that's exposed. You're providing less of a target for these mosquitoes to bite you. Or you can cover your exposed skin with repellent. Now, we know that there's 3 or 4 different types that work, that have the active ingredient that is very effective, and that's the ones that contain DEET, the ones that have picaridin. And this is the type of active ingredient that you can put on your clothing that adds extra protection. You don't have to worry. It's not greasy. It's not going to harm the fabric. You can use a picaridin-based repellent. There's another one if you're into more natural remedies. Oil of lemon eucalyptus is something that you can apply to your skin. Also masks your scent, keeps you mosquito bite free. But the problem with that is that it's not as concentrated as the others, so you have to reapply often. So drain and cover.
Right. And for all the moms and grandparents out there, make sure you take care of your kids and your grandkids, because they respond differently, even if it's a non-infected mosquito. We don't want our kids to get bitten.
No, we don't. You got to protect them.
So I did notice, Doctor, on there was an address on there. In this particular case, why did you get the specimen from there? What in particular caused that to occur?
Well, usually it's more difficult to control the mosquitoes in the storm drains in the coastal areas because there's so much movement and there's some saltness in the water. So the chemicals seem to be less effective. So my to-go thing is if it works there, it should be working throughout the county. So I picked the most difficult to control areas because I can't do it, throughout the county. So I picked the areas that are more, giving us a hard time than the others. So if they work there, then I'm like, okay, then we should assume that it should be working effectively.
That's wonderful to see what keeps us sane, if you will, and not have to deal with mosquitoes among all the other things. The solid waste department is a pretty big department. They go out, solid waste, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. They go out and they're the ones that pick up the green and blue dump things out. They have the bulky waste that you can do. They have the TRCs, transfer recycling
the
centers,
trash and recycling centers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's many of them that are all over. I've used some of those things, and and the system is perfect. Went on to miamidade.gov, looked up under bulky waste, filled out this report there. They're really very nice. And done a good job. I understand there are going to be some pink trucks out there soon. Just the the complete opposite of what we think about mainly stuff, right? Making recognition of breast cancer. And so my hat's off to the department and for the county to being acutely aware and for keeping us, for the most part, mosquito free, at least from biting. Thank you for doing this wonderful work that you do, Michael. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Michael.
And we're going to wrap it up here. And before we do it, I'd like you to spend 30 seconds up to a minute in talking to a young person out there who's 18, 19 years old that is contemplating their future as far as what kind of education and where they want to go to school and about a career.
Well,
which camera should she be looking at?
That one.
She's in the back over there.
So look at that Kim right over there.
Okay.
He's going to focus on you. That one right over there.
So I know it's very difficult.
Look at that.
You can change your mind a lot, but I think the most important thing to pick up is to do something that you enjoy, because one of my mentors told me once, like, if you do something that you enjoy, you don't work a day, in your life, and just get paid for something that you have fun doing it. So I think that's the key. You don't want to go to work and don't enjoy what you're doing and pick something like that. The reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, it's because every day is a different excitement. I get excited if this is gonna work. I get excited if Dr. Petrie is gonna like the results, or it's a lot of excitement, and that makes you feel alive and makes you feel be useful also. That's the part that I like, because I know when I do what I do, I help other people. You just need to find out what your niche is, like what makes you happy, and keep going. So
Thank you, Dr. Isik, from the Mosquito division of the Miami-Dade Solid Waste Department. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you as always for being here.
Thank you, Michael.
And Dr. Petrie, thank you for everything.
I would like to just add something
Yes, sir.
at the end here, Michael. I invite people to learn more about our division by going to our website, miamidade.gov/mosquito. You can also follow us on social media at 305 Mosquito. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. And if you need services from the county, from us, if you're having a mosquito nuisance issue, please report it. Call 311. Use our website, miamidade.gov/mosquito, or we also invite you to download and install one of several county apps that'll do the same.
Okay, great. Thank you, folks, for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for doing what you do.
Thanks for having us.
And again, this is Live with Miami's Community News, and we're ready to wrap it up, folks. Have a great day. See you.